going? All right, man. Can you hear me? Hello.
Exceptional Radio. Exceptional Randos show is produced live in Sunroom Studios Base Capsule and in partnership with KLST 103.5, RadioCallisti.org. Remember to catch our Exceptional Randos live stream on YouTube every Sunday between 2 and 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you have a story, idea, or question that you would like to share, we want to hear from you. Thanks for listening. Well, that was random. Exceptional Radio. Hey, good afternoon. It's the 30th of May, and it's, it felt like summer a few days ago, but now it kind of feels like spring again. And I kind of like that. It's nice and crisp out. I went outside this morning and I felt, I think I could do something this afternoon. But at the same time, it's tempered with this whole conflict with having to deal with, vaccine sanctuaries walking around. I still don't get it. It's like safer to be vaccinated. There are fewer complications. But, these are just the things that we have to contend with. What can we actually do about it? Except continue to hope that people will get that needle stuck in their arm. Oh, actually, no, wait. I'm looking forward to like a pill I think a pill
I think
would.
your audio keeps cutting out, man. I keep losing you. I don't know.
I mean, can you hear me?
I can hear you now, but like you cut off like I don't know if the audience missed it, but you cut off like halfway through your.
Well, what I was saying is that we're still contending with this, people who don't want to get vaccinated, and that's really the issue now. There's still populations that are have compromised immune systems, or people that can't get vaccinated, and these are people who are still at risk. And so, I wonder if people who refuse to get vaccinated are even. I mean, do they even care about other people? I mean, obviously not. I don't know. Is there even an argument for?
I think I was gonna say at least half of America doesn't care about other people, and they prove that over and over. They just care about imposing their own pseudo-religious and pseudo-Christian perspective on people. That's all they actually care about. They don't actually care about other people. I can tell you that out the gate.
Yeah.
And we gotta stop acting like there's any sort of I've seen this weird. There's a split on the, I guess, center left on how to treat racists and like the idea that you can reform a racist. And it's like, we got other shit to deal with. We don't need to be wasting time trying to reform racist people. If they want to like learn how to live with other people as adults, good for them. But we don't need to be wasting time trying to teach adults how to like not disrespect other people's persons. That's not something that adults need to be like. That's something they should have fucking learned in kindergarten. The fact that half the country doesn't understand it, they're not going to get it as adults. So we need to stop wasting time trying to teach these people how to be decent human beings, because they're incapable. Republicans are incapable of being decent human beings. There, I said it. Hot take.
Yeah, I mean, at this point the Republicans obviously aren't like a homogenous entity, but they're all following in step with Mitch McConnell. I just wonder why. I don't know. I guess there's no point in reasoning with it. There's just no. I can't even project into that kind of mindset.
Well, and that's part of like I'm not necessarily surprised by the people who are trying to pitch converting those people, but it's like it's such a huge waste of time, and that's where I guess you just kind of end up being disappointed and realizing like, oh yeah, there's sheep on the left too. That's right, I forgot. You don't remember that there's sheepish people on every side until you see them doing sheepish shit.
Yeah.
Like, oh, let's see if we can convert these racists. Maybe they'll start caring about human beings. Let's spend a bunch of time trying to teach adults why we shouldn't lock children up in cages.
I mean, it seems like the kind of thing that we should do, but I guess I get it. It doesn't actually work out that way.
Theoretically, yeah, you should, but it's a complete waste of time, unfortunately.
Yeah. That's the big kicker, right? We can't actually do anything.
Like the minute you have to have the debate about locking kids up in cages, you've already lost. Like there's no winning side in that argument or debate. Like if you have to enter that debate, everyone has already lost. But to the Republicans, that's what they want. They want kids to be like working at 4 years old. Oh, you got two little hands? You better put them to work. Otherwise, the devil's going to use them. Devil and idle hands and such. You know how Republicans love their little catchphrases.
What is it? The devil, the idle hands, or the devil's playthings?
Yeah, the Devil's Workshop or some shit. Which is where I'm like, that's basically them trying to like prevent people from masturbating. And then on top of that, it's like it's such a way to gaslight people into constantly being working instead of just relaxing. Like, God forbid somebody take a fucking break. Like, oh shit.
Oh shit, little Timmy is exercising his prostate and setting the foundation for a life free of prostate issues and potentially avoiding prostate cancer entirely.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, heaven forbid that he doesn't get prostate cancer and contribute to, some kind of, I don't even know what they do to people with prostate cancer, remove their prostate. Ugh. And then there's like, however long they've got left, they've got issues with their with bladder control and can't do the rest of the thing. And also the giant red meat industry, of course, that contributes to colon cancer and prostate cancer. I'm on a prostate cancer kick because I'm of age where I have to start considering, man, I got to go lie down and let them take a look.
Right. I mean, as you're saying, like, I've started cutting back on, I've been cut back on red meat, but it's one of those things where I just don't think a lot of Americans don't think about where their food comes from in the first place, let alone the quality or the, cleanliness of the food that they're consuming. So then you have people eating like 70% lean red meat and then wondering why they have fucking irritable bowel syndrome, and it's like, well, you don't know what 30% of that shit is. You don't even know if it's 30% fat. It could be 10% unusual, the materials that they don't usually eat. And I've started seeing like the secondhand stuff that humans generally aren't supposed to be eating going into meat now. And just it's amazing where just you don't have to eat that much meat. Where if you're running out of quality meat to the point you have to start supplementing it with like the gizzards and the fucking intestines and the fucking marrow. I mean, that's not to say the marrow's terrible, but
marrow's good if you want to make a broth.
Right, but to be like grinding up the bones and all the shit that they have to do to supplement this incessant consuming cycle. If Americans just ate less meat, the quality of their meat would go up. It's weird how.
No, it's the same. It's the same issue with people being afraid of a gasoline shortage and then going out and buying all the fuel, thus creating the actual gasoline shortage.
Right.
If people were more conscious of their consumption habits, we could actually have a higher quality across the board through regulation, because we would be able to ensure higher quality, because there wouldn't be as express demand for instant gratification. I need my steak. I don't want to go wait for it. I'm going to go buy it and throw it on the grill, which works, but it doesn't have to always be like that. In the past week, I've seen more and more pictures of people's cicada dishes, and some people say it tastes like shrimp.
Oh God!
Some people say it tastes like, well, not what they expected. Some describe it as similar to escargot, and others describe it as tasting like butter and garlic and salt and pepper, because that's what.
You mean the things that they seasoned it with?
Yeah. So here we are in the midst of the 17-year cicada brood X, I believe is what they're calling it, and it's a pretty critical part of the environmental, the ecological cycle. It aerates the soil, it restores nutrients, it provides a food supply for any insect-eating organisms. and now humans are eating these insects.
I mean, but god damn it, man. This is why I hate Americans. They can't fucking, of course, of all the insects, they have to start eating the one that only comes around every fucking 17 years. They couldn't have done this last year. They couldn't have done this a year before. No, we got to do this every 17 years. So it's a delicacy. This is why I fucking hate America, man. It's like, god damn it. You couldn't decide to eat bugs when it's not the one thing that only comes around come on, man. This is why you can't take it seriously. You can't take this shit seriously because it's a fucking fad. It's only meant to be like exceptional in the sense of, oh, we're doing this because this is only going to happen once every 17 years. And this makes us elite. Look at us eating bugs, making cicada burgers, being natural, making, it tastes delicious. Just put some garlic on it. They don't fuck all the way out of here with these goddamn cicada burgers, man.
I mean, I haven't seen anybody talking about eating grasshoppers or
of course not
mealworms or any of the other traditional dip in chocolate or fry it insects. I'm not really sure. I'm not even sure what to think about it because it's like, I guess at this point I can't do anything about it because, you know, every 17 years, millions of them emerge from the ground and sing their songs. It sounds like a ray gun.
Yeah, it sounds like Star Trek original series, A Different Planet or some shit.
Yeah, like the phasers from the Enterprise.
God damn it. Can humans just not help eating stuff? It's like, oh, this thing comes out let's eat it. Let's eat it. How about that?
Oh, that's so good. Well, we got to figure out if we can deep fry it. We've got to figure out if we can turn it into ice cream. We have to figure out if we can batter it and deep fry it or coat it in chocolate. What else? We've got to make a pie out of it. We've got to grind it up and turn it into a burger, like you mentioned. I'm sure there's going to be a cicada sausage.
Yeah, I mean, and my thing is like, okay, you can farm and harvest so much stuff, like shrimp, whatever. If you want to get crazy and go like back to indigenous lifestyle after they disconnect everybody from us or from it, start eating worms again. Yeah, okay. But why, cicadas just to be fucking cool? This is a once in a lifetime, or what? Not even once in a lifetime. Once every 17-year deal. Like, man, okay, I'm never gonna eat bugs. But if there was a fucking chocolate covered grasshopper culture or some shit, okay, I get it. Grasshoppers come out every year. Source of protein. Maybe they don't have souls. I don't know.
When you put enough chocolate on them, they kind of taste like a Kit Kat.
Probably,
it's kind of like a wafer.
You fry anything and put enough chocolate on it, it's probably gonna taste good. So like, I get it, but fucking cicadas, man, is
there are locusts that are like,
damn it, just leave them alone. Just fucking leave them alone.
Well,
leave this one.
There are locusts in Africa that are the size of like turkey wings. They're giant grasshoppers essentially. But
I had a giant snail when I was in Nigeria.
Oh, like the one, the elephant snail, the ones that are like the size of a brain.
It was fucking huge. Or wait, was it in Nigeria or Kenya? Wait, it's in Nigeria. At first it tasted like rubber, and it was like, okay, you when you're eating it, they're like the spice on it, it's like nothing I've ever tasted before in my life. I could only liken it to eating a tire. So when I'm eating this fucking snail, this gigantic, like it's bigger than a cinnamon bun, goddamn size snail, and that's where I'm like, they wanted me to eat it. I'm sure they were trying to see if I would, just to see, like, God damn it, I ate the whole fucking thing. Halfway through, you start getting accustomed to the flavor, and that's where I'm like, okay, I could totally see this being like a thing. I'll never eat it again, but I can see where people eat it. Like, but they were talking about they do it for the feeling of invigoration anyway, and I get it. Like they're like whether it's placebo or not, I did feel like when you eat wild meat versus farmed meat, you get invigorated from it because they have different levels of vitamins and there's different levels of nutrients. I definitely felt that from the giant snail, whether it's placebo or not. But when you have people saying, "Oh, we've been doing this for a long time," it's like, there's something to it. So that's kind of where, like, I'm not gonna disrespect somebody's culture, and if I'm like in Nigeria, I'm gonna fucking eat a goddamn snail or whatever. Like, but if it's in America and it's a fad, that shit is dumb. That shit is dumb. And I hate that Americans can't just be normal about shit. We can't just be normal about shit, man. It's like the cicadas came out. Okay, cool. Oh, we gotta fucking make cicada pie and make cicada burger and cicada furky. Like, god damn it, man. We can't just be normal about shit.
It tastes like shrimp. You know, there's going to be a cicada taco too.
Which, you know what else tastes like shrimp? Shrimp tastes like shrimp. Shrimp tastes like shrimp. We don't need to eat cicada because it tastes like shrimp when there's shrimp right there. Shrimp is right there. Farmable. You know, god damn, man. Americans, they're exhausting. We are exhausting.
Yeah.
Americans, man.
Well, you know, this last weekend, as it got cold and rainy, it was one of the first times that I actually noticed that they canceled the weekend race. And so it prompted me to look some things up. And turns out that Little 500 happened with like zero fanfare.
Huh.
And it was
I had no idea.
Yeah, it was streamed online. There were no spectators allowed. Little Five?
The bike race?
Yeah.
You there?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah. No, I'm here. They did it, but it was televised. It was
the bike race or the car race?
Little 500, the bike race, where they ride around on the track in Bloomington. It was completely. It was done indoor, or well, it wasn't done indoors. It was done. I guess where they always Bill Armstrong Stadium, but there weren't any spectators, and it was only available through live stream. I didn't even know about it. I just kind of casually looked it up, and lo and behold, hey, this thing happened. And traditionally, like every year around Little Five, I try to get out of town. I mean, normally I think it's in April, but they did it in May this year, and it was just surreal for me because it was the first time that I didn't actively avoid Bloomington. I mean, I haven't been going into town at all for the most part, but I didn't even notice it. Like it wasn't even there. And that was kind of a strange feeling for me because it's always been something that I've, you count down to Little Five either because you're really into going out and partying, or you count down Little Five because you're gonna batten down the hatches and avoid the chaos. But that didn't happen, and that was really cool.
Honestly, I only heard avoid the chaos. I can only hear about half of what you're saying.
Oh, weird.
So I have no context of what you were trying to say.
Well, no, I was just talking about, like, it's like Little 500 itself is always chaos. It's always chaotic, and it's always the kind of thing where I've made an effort.
It's like a joke, man. It cut out right when you started
This is weird.
It's always, yeah, something's going on with your mic, man. It's like cutting you out every, like halfway through your sentences, and then you'll come back.
I don't know. All my levels are good here, and it's coming through on my side. Like, my meter doesn't drop. It's probably Zoom.
Oh, maybe so.
I don't know. Zoom has been weird to me lately.
I'm not sure if they've done any major updates or anything in the last couple months, but it does seem to have, like, they were updating the platform and updating it, and then it just seemed like, okay, now everybody's not paying attention anymore. Let's let it go to shit.
Yeah. Well, I think they have to compete with. I mean, Microsoft stepped up with Teams, and I'm sure Google has some kind of system that they can use for group interaction.
Yeah. It's crazy how Skype just completely fumbled that.
Skype kind of seems to have evaporated. Like, I still see the icon for it, but I don't know anybody who uses Skype anymore.
No.
I've been considering running a Jitsi server and just completely hosting the entire, like, conference meeting voice video thing. Of course, that would require people. Yeah, it'd require that people install that on the client on their end too. So I don't know how that would actually work out. But Jitsi is completely open source, and it's updated fairly regularly. It's actually pretty interesting to me how, we're a year and some change into pandemic world, and there were a lot of changes that were made really rapidly, and everyone seemed to kind of settle on that. And I feel like really things haven't actually changed in the last 6 months, 7 months. And a lot of that has to do with, I think everyone's trying to game everything, or I see a lot of sponsored ads for things that are just, barely even incremental improvements over what they claim to be superior to. And this is like everything: tools, hand tools, power tools, electronics, power amplifiers for hi-fi systems. I see more brands emerging, like every day I get like bombarded with sponsored ads, and it's crazy because I just watch YouTube most of the time and then peruse forums. I need to clear my browser cache. That's what that tells me.
Yeah, that definitely helps. But yeah, it's weird how much, like, all the metadata we leave across the internet ends up being used against us to make our experience, like, it's what they intend to be more focused to try to sell us things, but in that case then it ends up being these advertising blinders where you don't get to see anything outside of what is being targeted towards your demographic, and it's like based on your information, but not even you specifically, in that the data only cares about, or the things analyzing the data only care about selling you things. They don't care about actually making your life better. It's so weird to see, there needs to be this constant propaganda of showing, like, oh yeah, you can make your life better by buying this thing or whatever. But in the process, nobody's life actually gets better buying things. So it's always dependent upon the propaganda to keep that cycle going. So I think that's also when you see it kind of fall apart when you can't have these public displays of wealth accumulation the same way they used to. So, like, the pandemic kind of put everybody on the same playing field to the extent of now all the rich people have to flex on Instagram too because they can't go out and flex at the club and buy a $250 shot or a $5,000 bottle. So they have to like sit at home and have parties at home and post it on Instagram, and everybody was in the same boat. So you can only like flex as much as your frame. So a year of frame flexing put everybody in this like, okay, you have to be more creative after a certain point than just having shit, because once all the material flexes are done, then it becomes like, well, how good are you at editing TikTok videos or whatever, and how can you like throw your hat? How many different ways can you throw your hat and use edits? So shit like that. Then the meme gets it strays from material so far that being technologically savvy and creative become more important to rise to the top of the wave than just having money. And it's only really because of the pandemic that happened, I think.
Oh, so it's not just about money. You have to be creative too. It's interesting how that works. I think at one point it's never been just about throwing money at things, but I think you've kind of nailed it. Culturally, we've hit this point where throwing money at things doesn't actually yield the best outcome anymore. It takes more, and we've learned. I think we learned through the '60s that we can build a space capsule at the lowest bidder, and even through this shuttle program, it was still it was about the lowest bidder got the contract. But I think at this point, even throwing money at it is that doesn't always work. There's a better way. Even might require more thought. Maybe it requires less consumption. I mean, I like the idea of having a competitive computer market and being able to select from a variety of processors or motherboards or video cards. But man, there are like hundreds of variations of motherboard, if not thousands of variations of motherboard. I wonder how many cell phones there are, how many totally different cell phone or smartphones are available.
If you take in the knockoff market, Jesus, it's probably just like starting to hear near infinite.
Well, in Droid Chart, they currently list 237 brands.
Yeah.
That's just brands.
Yeah.
So at least one model per brand. Some have 4, 5, 10.
Right. With that many brands, it starts to become like exponential. Every model, each brand adds.
Well, at least one, maybe multiples, but dependent on market, and then the various connectivity protocol that they use.
And I mean, like, there's got to be an average number of models per brand, so it's like.
How many different? $24,000 different models of Android devices. And that was in 2015.
So between like 237 companies, 24,000. So
it's like 100 per company.
Yeah, that's like the mode, right? That's the median.
Holy crap. And of course, I bet like Samsung and like whatever HTC or LG or whatever, I bet they all had like more than some others. But then I bet like Huawei has like 300 different cell phone or smartphone models. My understanding of the Chinese smart device market is that they are much more agile at creating variations. Part of that is because they have entire schools dedicated to teaching people how to create the circuitry and basically how to place the actual components, the chips, the little processors, the camera, all that stuff. They know how to design these things, and so they can rapidly design and develop them and then throw them in a case and see if it works in the market, because they've got billions of consumers, or 1 billion consumers, and they can afford to do a lot of testing. They can cycle through a lot of different variations to find the ones that work. I bet that's how their space program advanced as rapidly as it did.
Oh, I'm sure. And I think part of it too is when you have the government investing in things, then you get results. And it's that simple. It's that simple. Instead of the government giving other people money to invest in things and trying to hope that things will get accomplished. So I think it's so weird to see people not understand the role of government or understand the role of private industry, but try to like proselytize for private industry while being subject to the whims of those that actually hold capital. This is a result of propaganda, and that's kind of where, again, it's like there's no perfect system out there right now whatsoever, but the way that capitalists have to convince themselves that they're in the best system that has ever existed or will ever exist it's cultish. There's no other way around it. um and the way they're perpetually trying to make Chinese people by proxy out to be part of a cult in the way the Chinese government exercises capitalism in the statist uh, deployment. It's obviously disingenuous, but when you look at it, it's like, well, they're kicking your ass at capitalism. So like, how are you trying to paint this out to be anything but them kicking your ass at the thing that you are trying to say is the best way to do things? Like, China has basically taken over our means of production, our means of sourcing the means of production. And then in the process, they reap a lot of the profit. So it's like at every turn, whether it's the financial investing aspect where they have a ton of holdings or bonds, or there's all these different areas in the US economy and government by proxy in which they hold interests. Like, they're not our enemy. They hold too much interest in our success to even be remotely considered our enemy. So when our government and our like the people at the top of our economy paint them out to be our enemy, it's so disingenuous when they're fucking getting paid from Chinese money. And it's like, they know what they're doing. So getting the high level rhetoric in a place where it's obviously intended to stoke tension and create a racial um a racial lexicon that dances around like it's not the same type of open slurs, but the way that they talk about the Chinese government and what the Chinese government is trying to do, it's xenophobia that directly results in anti-Asian sentiment and violence on the ground, and they know what the fuck they're doing. And that's kind of where, to me, it's like super disingenuous when you have these people working with, like, all of them have Chinese business partners. All of them do. None of them. It's like statistically impossible that there's not Chinese money going into their pocket at some point. It's just the way it is. Our government and our economy has it's like not a vacuum, and it's so intermixed with international investment that it's like impossible. And also there's Iranian money, there's like Korean money, like it's like the way that the government tries to like demonize people and then also turns around and takes their investment. It's like war profiteering in the worst way, in that then they turn around and send other people's kids off to fight for some shit that's 100% fabricated, not based in actual need to have these conflicts, and then they're perpetual. It's like, why is a Democratic president ratcheting up war? Why is a Democratic president selling weapons? This isn't what we voted for. If you voted for a Democrat, like I voted not Republican, and I carry around that stupid "I fucking voted" sticker just to prove to people that shit doesn't fucking matter. Until we do something to make these people stop the military industrial complex, voting doesn't do shit. Voting does not stop the fucking military from killing people. Voting does not stop the military from exploiting people. It does not stop the military from propagandizing at us and telling us for whatever reason that China is our enemy, or we need to like have this two-state conflict with Israel and Palestine that we fucking started basically after World War II, that we fucking started. We need to have that so our military can stay selling them weapons. And the Democrat is the one selling us that fucking bullshit. I didn't vote for that. That's exactly why I carry around that goddamn fucking sticker. That's not what I fucking voted for. It's fucking bullshit. And it's like, what do we have? Like, did you vote for war, Tien? Did you vote for war at any point in your life?
No.
Did you go into a booth and say, you know what? I want war. I want police brutality. At no point in my life have I ever fucking voted for that shit. But yet it never goes away. Somehow that shit is never on the ballot.
Well, we're always having to contend with the lowest common denominator on some level. Or actually, no, this is this is the least common denominator at this point. Not the lowest common denominator. This is a small group of people who want war, who are profiting from it. It's even worse than the lowest common denominator. These bastards are just...
Speaking of lowest common denominator, I think that's a good segue to discuss Chris Hadfield calling out all this dumbass talk about these fucking old ass UFO videos. For fuck's sake, can we stop talking about these old ass grainy fucking bullshit same goddamn videos every fucking time? They're not aliens, people. It doesn't even look like anything. And then I saw this video of like a triangle UFO. It's fucking sky lanterns, people. Use your fucking heads. I'm so tired of like this magical fucking ET alien that can show up in this triangle gigantic UFO that just happens to flow with the fucking wind pattern. And it just happens to look like 3 fucking sky lanterns. Like, the amount that Americans talk about UFOs, and there's like no fucking proof. There's no real goddamn proof. And when they're talking about these videos, it's the same fucking video every fucking time. And it's like, then the people will release this video and then like comment on the no reaction to it as if like, why aren't people reacting more? Well, because it's nothing. What am I supposed to flip out every time somebody puts out a fucking grainy video of static? Was that where we're at now? Like, and further, oh my God, the fact it could just be fabricated. Like the fact that it's a bullshit video on top of it, but the fact that it could be fabricated and bullshit is like why we should have never talked about it. And finally, a fucking astronaut came out and said, people, please stop. Please stop talking about this foolishness. This is foolishness. Every time we have one of these discussions about UFOs, it's just American foolishness. I've lived in a different country when during 2012, and Americans look so dumb to other people when we talk about this shit. Not because it's not the subject matter. It's not to say that aliens can't exist. They definitely exist. We're fucking aliens. We're the extraterrestrials. That's not the issue. They're not here. They're not here. They're not floating around just like being fucking enigmatic, being mysterious, leaving fucking just little drawings in grass. No, that's stupid. That's fucking dumb. They're not here, people. They're somewhere else doing some not dumb shit, not looking at fucking porn. They're not wasting their time with our dumb species that can't fucking stop killing each other. They're not here. If they can make it here, they're not here because we're dumb. So they wouldn't waste their time with us. And he was polite about it, but I repeatedly come at it from a point, like we talked about it last week in the sense of like, what are we even using our fucking internet for? We waste so much energy. We waste so many resources. Our species has not done anything of note for like the last 2,000 years, like straight up. We just haven't.
So is this in reference to
like 2,000 years?
Is this in reference to the imagery of the four lights over DC in 1952?
Yep. Okay. No. There was one that came out last week.
A new image.
Yeah, it wasn't an image, it was a video.
It was a video.
Yeah, but it's obviously sky lanterns. And people were freaking out over it for like 48 hours. No, not people. Americans, not people. Only Americans.
Okay, I see this triangle. Why are people really getting up in arms over this?
That's the most recent one, but the one that the astronaut's referring to is the Tic Tac video where it's like they're flying over. It's like a Air Force infrared video or FLIR video flying over the water over they're flying by oil rigs too. Nothing shows up on the radar, but it shows up on their FLIR, and the video is fucking FLIR. And this is the same video that they keep releasing since 2004. And then that Blink 182 dude came out on Joe Rogan and was like, you remember when Harry Reid came out and was like, oh yeah, we have a program where we study UFOs. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
It's the same fucking video. Same goddamn one every time.
Yeah. Okay, this was released 1 week ago by 60 Minutes. It was released a year ago, April 28th, 2020 by CNBC. It was also released a month ago And this thing's been making the rounds.
They've been using the same thing for like over a decade now, and then when nobody reacts to it, it's like it's like, remember the color code that they used to do after 9/11?
Oh yeah.
I don't know if people remember that shit, but they've desensitized us so much to this one video that when they quote release it now, nobody reacts to it because they released it so many fucking times that it's like, dude, it's the same fucking video. So then that's where I'm like, finally, Chris Hadfield comes out and is like, guys, can we please stop? Can we please stop talking about this fucking UFO stuff because of this video? I mean, because then he's like, yeah, I've seen like shit I can't explain. A lot of shit I can't explain. But that doesn't, like, to say that it's fucking extraterrestrial is just basically dumb.
Well, that's jumping to
the dumbest conclusion.
Yeah, the least plausible conclusion. There are a lot of other things that should be considered before we go straight to the UFO.
It's the dumbest conclusion. That, let's call it what it is. It's the dumbest conclusion. And further, especially knowing that we have covert programs. We have black programs like black budgets, black ops. We have that shit. We know we have that shit. SRS Blackbird or whatever.
Oh, the SR-71.
Yeah, SR-71. Yeah, guess what? We didn't find out about that shit for like 30 years because it was a black ops program. So I'm sure.
I wonder what they replaced it with, because if they let us know that thing existed,
something we don't fucking know about.
Something else that's like even cooler is out there.
I think well, I want to say it was the Aurora program, because then the Aurora, like when they had the failed test flight, all they had was like a mock visualization of the test flight. So we've heard about this Aurora thing, the unmanned vehicle that could hit Mach 20 for over a decade, but I don't think anybody's seen it in action. So that's where I'm like, that sounds like the next thing, but it's like, yeah, it's a fucking black ops program, or at least gray, in the sense of we've heard about it, but we've never seen it. So why would anybody jump to the alien conclusion when they've never seen that fucking thing first? It's just, it doesn't make any sense, man. Like, people in America jump to the dumbest conclusions. They jump to the.
I think it's
ridiculous.
Well, I think it's easier to accept for some people to believe and accept that some super advanced alien species is regularly visiting us to probe our cows and give kids nightmares, than it is for them to accept that humans have advanced flight technology. It somehow, like, it undermines the illusion that we're this peaceful, still developing species that hasn't figured out how to create, like, incredibly deadly, dangerous, destructive weapons of war. Oh, speaking of incredibly dangerous, but also really cool, China has brought their fusion reactor online, and they got it up to like 120 million degrees centigrade, and maintain that for like 100 seconds. And then they boosted it up to 180 million, I believe, for 20 seconds.
Jesus.
So apparently the sun burns at like 16 million Kelvin. And so they believe that they might be able to sustain solar fusion. They're on the path. They believe within the next 30 years they should have figured out solar fusion in a controlled manner, in a giant magnetized chamber.
Just watched Man of Steel yesterday, and that sounds amazing, but also like
terrifying.
Is this how Krypton fucking blew itself up? Is this the conversation they had like a month before they blew their shit up? Because that's what it feels like. I don't know if it's recency bias. It kind of I guess it's probably recency bias.
It's also how we get Dr. Octopus. So I think let the fusion reactor go and see, because either we get Dr. Octopus or we get decaying Krypton. I think that's.
I mean, either one of those are good, right?
I mean, either one of those, or at least either one of these are at least interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the Chinese are 30 years away. They estimate that within the next 30 years, they're going to have complete electrical power autonomy. Like they'll be free of having to worry about generating electricity because they'll be able to sustain a nuclear fusion fission reaction. And all they got to do is inject helium, which gives them even more reason to go to the moon because the moon's rich in helium, apparently.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, the helium-3. And that's one of the things they can use to run their solar engine, their star drive. Holy crap, they're about to make a star drive. I mean, what else are you going to do with the power of a sun?
Huh. Well, you know what, though? I guess, like, on the one hand, there's probably not enough matter on this, like, on our actual planet to, like, make a crazy reaction.
To run the thing indefinitely? Yeah.
No. I mean, to, like the biggest black hole they could probably ever make using matter on this, like, in this planet is like a micro black hole. Like we can never, like, I don't think the physics work out where they could accidentally like make a black hole that swallows the Earth. There's just not enough mass.
Oh, so speaking of that, I watched this analysis of red matter from Star Trek, and basically, like the conclusion was that for red matter to exist, they would have to have a catalyst to create a black hole. So they would have to be able to turn something into something massive enough to collapse on itself. And
right. You need like a whole star to do that. That's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
Like, the way science fiction has like made it like, oh, you can just make a black hole and it'll swallow up the planet. It's so far from the physics and reality that it's like, that's some shit humans don't actually really need to be worried about, like, for the most part, in that unless like a sun drifts into our solar system or somebody actually starts talking about like trying to accelerate, like maybe I don't know, it would need more mass than I think is taken in all of the planets that are left in our solar system to create a black hole that powerful. Like, which is why when you actually do the physics of it,
well, like, that's the whole primordial black hole. Those are the ones that are like the size of an orange that only have the mass of like our solar system.
Right.
And they can't form now. They could only have formed in the early stages of the formation of the universe.
Exactly right. So and that's why, like, the way that science fiction makes it like, oh, you can just turn on this machine and fucking black hole might swallow up Earth. It would have to have the mass that's bigger than the Earth for that to happen. And where would that shit come from? Like, this magical, like, the way that, like, you need math to work that shit out and not just magic. Science fiction in a lot of cases drifts on magic and in people's like minds because it's classified as sci-fi. It like they adopt those principles as if they would hold up under math, but they don't.
Well, they hold up under some really fuzzy math, like completely not math, just written to look like math.
Mm-hmm.
I can create a illustration that looks like it belongs in a 3-dimensional grid space and call it warp drive.
Right, exactly. And that's kind of where.
But I think that's the idea of the sun engine that they're making, the fusion system, is that they're going to be able to make a small solar fusion reaction just to create electricity.
The Alcubierre drive is what the equivalent of what we know as warp drive in Star Trek would be, in that what the Alcubierre drive would theoretically do is reduce the concentration of matter at the front of the bubble and increase the concentration of matter at the rear. So it's basically like if you would take a soap bubble, the soap bubble moves through water by the water, like the water moves around the bubble instead of the water moving through the bubble. So the way that the Alcubierre drive is meant theoretically to mimic the way a soap bubble moves through space with a vehicle, sort of as if time dilation. I mean, the way time dilation is proposed, it theoretically could mimic that process. And this is where the sun drive would be like different, in that it's like using like legitimate fusion. It may end up producing it. It could potentially be used to produce that effect, but it's like using a different physics principle.
I think the Alcubierre drive requires antimatter.
Right. Yeah. And that's kind of where.
But that's only necessary if you want to go somewhere really quickly.
Right. Well, but this is where potentially the solar drive could be used to create antimatter to power an Alcubierre drive. So it's not to say that the fusion engine would not be part of an Alcubierre drive, but it would not be necessarily the same thing as the warp drive in Star Trek as we know it.
I was actually thinking more of the Wandering Earth engines with the sun drive. Just build a bunch of big sun reactors all over the planet, and then we don't have to worry about temperature regulation. We've got mini suns creating heat and electricity. And then we can turn the planet, and then we can just build the rings around the planet and then collect antimatter until we fire up the Alcubierre Earth drive. Take the whole planet with us. Why do we have to leave the Earth? All this effort's to leave the Earth. Why? This is the most successful spacecraft that we've ever been on. Why would we want to leave it? Make a smaller, less safe version of a spaceship to travel through space? Really? Just take the whole damn planet.
That's such a cool movie. And I swear, like, yeah. There's like the
build a big build a big halo around the sun, attach it to the Earth, and use some magnetic fields to use the sun as our own power supply. Just take it with us too.
Yeah, I mean, but to go where?
I don't know.
You see what I'm saying, though?
Obviously, humans want to go someplace. You might as well.
We can't get our shit right in one spot. We're like the perpetual rolling stone.
We're like rodents of the universe, just traveling all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
No, but maybe there's something worth getting closer to study or to look at, to see happening. I don't know, how close can we get to like a supernova where we can observe it without getting just bombarded by gamma radiation and dying? How far away do we have to be from a nebula to appreciate it? But how close can we be to it to really see it? things like that. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
I think it'd be pretty neat to see a proto solar system, like a big swirling cloud of gas and rocks just kind of spinning around. That'd be kind of neat to see. All this stuff would be pretty cool to see. Take the Earth to another solar system to view a planet that has really interesting properties. And since we can produce our own energy and heat, it doesn't matter where we can position the Earth way the hell out on the outer reaches of a solar system, so it's nowhere close to all the crazy activity. Proxima has like 3 suns.
Yeah, and I think there was like a discovery of a proto-solar system not too long ago, Hubble.
That stuff's awesome. Like, we can only kind of visualize it with technology, but it's all rendered. It's not like we can actually see the surface of some exoplanet. But
right.
I think it'd be pretty dope if we could just, move the Earth, especially if we had like some kind of warp drive where we could just move it really quickly. Just take the whole damn thing. Obviously, we want to have small ships that we can send in advance to determine if it's safe, because you don't want to drop the Earth next to some planet that's hostile, that has an advanced civilization, that has spacecraft also and really advanced weaponry. We want to scout the area first so we don't piss people off. But I think it'd be pretty interesting to be able to do that kind of thing if it's possible. Maybe in 1,000 years.
I don't think it's possible to have a spacefaring hostile species. I think that trope is bullshit. I don't think it's possible.
Yeah.
Like, if you can't get along with each other, you're not going to get out of your solar system. Space is just too hostile for people that don't get along with each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's kind of where I think it makes for great sci-fi. But if you, the whole reason we have the doomsday clock is because we're
for each other.
Right, exactly. Exactly. So when the issue is getting to type 1 civilization requires that we get over that constant struggle to destroy ourselves. You can't have all that power if you are constantly on the verge of destroying yourself, because you will destroy yourself with all that power eventually, which is why on that Kardashev scale, the big hurdle to type 1 civilization is war, basically. And it's not the only one, but one of the biggest hurdles is war, or the capacity for the civilization to get along with itself. So in that context, a civilization that can go beyond its own solar system does not, to me, also correlate with this civilization that is still at war. I don't think those things are possible. And in the sense of I didn't come up with that. Like, the Kardashev scale makes sense. The Kardashev scale makes a ton of sense in that, once you start having the capacity to harness stars and shit and have the power, if you can make 120 fucking million Kelvin star, you got to make sure you don't destroy yourselves in order to actually use that to get outside of your own solar system. And the closer a civilization is to still being at war, the more likely they're going to use that shit to destroy themselves, meaning that type of power just doesn't really correlate with a civilization that still squabbles over petty shit. And by proxy, that's where I think the Western sci-fi notion of a spacefaring colonial species is bullshit. I'm calling it bullshit. It's not possible. You can't be colonizing outside of your own solar system if you can't get outside of your solar system. And that, like I said, the Kardashev scale basically articulates why You can't get outside of your solar system if you're still fighting amongst yourself. So this is where, again, I think well, if enough people know that framing, well, yeah, it's going to be really hard to make sci-fi that works. Sorry.
Yeah, fictionally.
Sorry, it's just gonna make writers have to work harder.
Star Wars is itself, the Galactic Empire is placed somewhere in the high 2 to mid 3 range. And
right, because they have the power of
the
stars.
Galaxy. They've got that whole galaxy in wraps.
Planets. Right, yeah, they have the power of a galaxy.
Yeah. They can build and destroy planets.
Yeah. Yeah, so they're definitely past one. Like, effectively, the Death Star is a Dyson sphere to a degree.
Yeah.
So yeah. It's not obviously the exact structure of a Dyson sphere, but
it's a really small miniaturized Dyson sphere.
Right, it's like a portable Dyson sphere, basically. It's a portable self-powered Dyson sphere, which puts them beyond that. So that's kind of where, again, this notion of what that empire also being a warring faction that only consumes and assimilates things into their
the entirety of the Galactic Empire of Star Wars is slightly more powerful than Galactus.
Yeah,
just a little bit more powerful than Galactus. It would take require the entire power of the entire Republic or Galactic Empire to defeat Galactus. Just Galactus. No Surfer. No Herald.
I mean, and I don't know if they could because they're not centralized.
They couldn't.
Like you'd have to bring it all into one spot.
Yeah, they couldn't.
Which is like, so that's again, Galactus. When this gets back to these notions of like, okay, there's a universal scale being like, let's say that, let's assume that, and we are existing in this universal scale being's neurons, and within that universal scale being's neurons exist cosmic scale beings, like what would be Galactus. In that universe, there is still going to be some sort of laws that govern the rule system that apply. So I think that's also where, when we look at things from our perspective, because we can't understand the cosmic rule set, doesn't mean the cosmic rule set doesn't exist, obviously. So that then becomes why you can't take the earthly perspective and impose it to a corner of the universe that we'll never, ever make it to, because it's physically impossible for anyone from our species to ever make it there. So that's kind of like, there are these things about the universe in which we exist that then make it like, it's cool to posit about these things. And yeah, we've come to this point where we want to be like, oh, we're not alone. And there's no way that if we exist, there's no, like, the numbers make it impossible that if we exist, we can't be the only ones that exist. The issue is the proximity of these events occurring in space-time. That ratio and probability is what we're talking about, not whether or not we're the only person. It's when and where in time and space do the other ones exist? Is there going to be, like, the probability of two civilizations achieving
technologically maturing at the same time and being able to get to each other. By the time that we could get to some other species on the other side of the galaxy, hundreds of millions of years pass by, right?
Not evolving past that state into something we can't fathom, the probability is then also low. So it's like these like, yeah, he imagined the Kardashev scale. What goes beyond it? Like, is what beyond the Kardashev scale what we consider gods or demigods? Kind of, probably. Not to say that that's not possible. It's just because we're looking from our perspective, then it becomes impossible to measure. And that's where people want to then let their minds wander and then let those possibilities from our perspective govern those scales, which is just not scientific in the first place. So it's like, when I try to imagine extraterrestrials, or what could be demigods or gods, like, I try as much as possible to get my perspective away from Earth. But inherently, my perspective is tied to this planet and tied to being a human born on this planet with our weaknesses and our inabilities to fly or our perpetual fear of mortality. There's all these things that are tied to our existence that I cannot separate from my capacity to imagine another being. And by proxy, my creativity is then limited. So it's like, of course, humans are going to then assume another spacefaring species is a fucking colonialist species because we are. And that's where it's like, obviously you can't like stop people from doing it, but it's so frustrating to see people perpetually putting other species on another planet in our petty squabbles. Like, how are you imposing our pettiness on this other planet that you've never even been to? Like, maybe this other species is evolved so that their skin changes color like chameleons, and that's the one difference. So they don't have a concept of race. So then they've never had these other national, like, xenophobia or like nations. There's all these things that could happen on another planet to make the species slightly different, but so different that then they evolve without having our same pettiness. Every time
I totally want some, like, really, I'm not even trying to describe it. Active pigmentation. I'd like to be able to change the pigment of my skin at will.
That does not sound evolutionarily out of line with something that exists somewhere, considering we have chameleons on our fucking planet. So we know there's beings out there that can do that. Who's to say at some point some humanoid or whatever intelligent species
can do it too?
Oh, for sure. And
they have like an extra brain just for it.
Cuttlefish are more intelligent than a lot of human children. So we have them on our planet that can do it. We don't want to acknowledge that. Guess what? Cuttlefish are smarter than a lot of kids. Probably most American kids. That shit puts Americans in a weird place when they have to acknowledge, guess what? Your kids are fucking stupid because we don't nurture them to be anything more than just blind consumers. Yeah, guess what? A cuttlefish is smarter than your fucking dumbass kid now.
Oh man, so monkey tails have their own brain.
Yeah, shit like that, man.
Leeches have 32 brains.
But we have to minimize them.
The giant Pacific octopus has 9 brains.
Because well, in America, specifically because of a Judeo-Christian exceptionalist paradigm that's not even accurate. We don't have great senses. We're not that smart. We're not the best predators. We're like, humans are not exceptional in any way. Even our creativity, there's other animals that can be creative. We're not exceptional in any way, except in our capacity to make ourselves feel exceptional. That's the only thing that actually sets us apart. Like, we think we're special. We think, therefore we am. And the crazy shit about that is
there might be some kind of dolphin Grammy Awards where they
Of course, I don't know if you're aware, but what are considered to be the different pods of dolphins meet up yearly. So yeah, they may be having Grammy awards.
I mean, they might be celebrating each other just as hardcore
but we don't
as
know
we do.
because we don't think that they can fucking communicate because it's not English, so we can't understand it. They must not be like, obviously we've gotten farther than that to know that dolphins definitely have a communication like lexicon. But like, okay, here's some crazy shit. What if chipmunks know sign language, bro? What if chipmunks have their own fucking sign? It sounds fucking crazy, right?
Wait.
Why not?
Coco,
Why not?
Wait, how many?
They're silent as fuck. They're silent as fuck. I've been watching chipmunks for years. There is a very strong possibility that they have hand signals amongst each other so that they
Coco
don't have
could
to make
sign
noise.
approximately 2,000 words.
But guess what? Because Americans are so stuck up their own asses about human exceptionalism, the notion that a chipmunk could have developed sign language on their own sounds crazy in this country.
Coco,
but guess what? It's more than likely.
Coco the gorilla was able to understand 2,000 spoken English words and could sign 1,000 words in ASL. So and there are chimpanzees that can drive cars and fly airplanes. I think it's pretty safe to assume that they have an advanced communication system that we're unaware of.
I think it's official that they moved into the Bronze Age because there was like a documented case of, I believe it was bonobo using tools to catch fish.
Oh, I think it was an orangutan.
Oh yeah, an orangutan. Yeah, but he was using a spear to catch fish.
Yeah, it was an orangutan that was spearfishing. Clinging to a branch and stabbing at a fish with a spear. That's awesome. Yeah. That's super awesome.
Yeah, because it's like I think they were technically in the Stone Age before. In the sense that obviously they're not smelting or anything, but this is like beyond just taking a rock and bashing a shell or a coconut.
It's fucking King Louis showing them all what's up. Oh, that's great. There's a whole series of images of it, like wielding this spear and like going at some fish. It's actually kind of cool. And
yeah, that was a big deal when he did that.
Apes and monkeys are fucking cool.
I've just stumbled upon
an image. Oh yeah. Well, I just stumbled upon an image of an orangutan using a saw, a crosscut saw. Like they can use tools. They're smart. These things are they're fucking smart. I can't remember which monkey it was. I remember watching videos of monkeys going out of or selecting the rotten fruit that had fallen from the trees. They get a little drunk. They knew what they were doing. They would eat the fruit on the floor of the forest, and next thing you know, they're rolling around and kind of glaze-eyed. That's good stuff.
Yeah, there's definitely animals out there that intentionally consume fermented fruits to get intoxicated. We're not the only ones.
I mean, I know that my dog likes pizza and would definitely consume a milkshake. Those are things that I enjoy. I've seen dogs drink beer, so yeah. Why wouldn't a monkey or an ape decide to eat some fermenting fruit? They know they know how to have a good time. They have fun. Sometimes I wonder, like, what kind of language, they do, obviously they have their own language, or like how, like, what is it? What are these like subtleties? Like, how similar are they to the way that we communicate? Do they laugh? Do they tell jokes? I'm pretty sure they could tell jokes.
Yeah, and then dolphins definitely get high on puffer fish. That is 100% real.
Oh, hold on, I gotta look that up. Dolphins. Dolphins get high on pufferfish. Wow. This isn't even
Yeah,
new
'cause
news. They roll
'cause then
around with one in
somebody
their
tried to be
mouth.
like, "Oh yeah, sorry to burst your bubble. Dolphins don't get like yeah they do. They got enough video of them doing it, tossing puffer fish between each other to show deliberate intoxication. Like it's not just some internet rumor. Like they actually do it and have video as proving as such.
There's like 20 to 30 minutes of video of dolphins passing the puffer between themselves.
Yep. Sometimes weird shit is true. Like that what's the guy's name?
This is from 2013.
So yeah, John Lilly filled a house filled a house with water and had a research assistant living with the dolphin, trying to communicate with his dolphin over time.
Is this the LSD, real. The dolphin LSD? Yeah.
And this was like a science, basically a study to see if they could communicate with the dolphin. And it did not work, but
didn't the assistant like fall in love?
Sexual relationship with the dolphin? Yes, she did. And it was a romantic relationship in that, yeah, she was like, yeah, oh, yeah.
Science.
Science, man.
Hey, this is good. These are good. This is good. This is how we know what doesn't work and what not to do, and this helps. This is part of the process.
So all that not necessary does not work. Now we know. Also, no cicadas.
No cicadas. Stop having sex with dolphins. Don't give them acid. No, we can't communicate with them by giving them acid. Stop giving animals LSD. I mean, that should just that seems like it should be obvious. Don't give anything drugs that can't like willingly say, "Yeah, I want that."
Oh man.
And I'm not talking about like getting your dog high or giving him a piece of your brownie or a cookie. That's probably cool as hell. Dogs like the things that we like. But
I mean, dogs shouldn't be eating brownies because chocolate can like
oh yeah, that's true.
Make them fucking fatally sick if they eat too much.
Yeah. Well, Bruce likes my cookies. He follows me around when I eat cookies.
Yeah, they'll eat it, but they shouldn't because it can kill it.
Yeah, yeah. Scratch that. No brownies. Give him a piece of your cookie though, or give him a biscuit.
Cookies with no chocolate chips, because it's like a little bit won't seem like it's doing anything, but it's like, yeah, it like quickly goes from nothing wrong to fatal or near fatal.
Oh, does it metabolize into something like cyanide or something?
Yeah.
Oof.
So it's a matter of like if enough builds up, yeah.
Well, I know you're not supposed to give them onions or grapes.
Exactly. I was just about to say you're not supposed to eat grapes either. That's another one, which it doesn't seem like it's a big deal, but yeah, they're not supposed to eat grapes either. Oh. But they'll try. They'll definitely try.
That's such a shame because dogs seem to like everything that we like.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Maybe that means we shouldn't be eating onions or grapes.
I mean, we're not supposed to eat a ton of them. We're not. Like, we're just not, because of the way that we don't process those. Like, that's why, like, fucking whole religions have rules against grapes and shit that go back thousands of years. So yeah, it's not, and not everybody has the same. It's like gluten, you know. There's going to be varying degrees of how people's guts respond to gluten. Like, nobody's really supposed to be eating it, but some people aren't supposed to be eating it more than others. And that's where, like, gluten's going to irritate everyone's stomach. But some people, it's going to irritate their stomach worse, to the point where they shouldn't, like, they can't eat it.
And some people have celiac and really
exactly.
can't.
Yeah.
Like, they absolutely cannot. But that's like a really, really tiny portion of the population.
Yeah.
I don't have any problems with gluten, and I also don't mind people who like desire to remove gluten from their diet. You know, initially there's always an adjustment phase with modifying recipes or developing new culinary palates when adopting, like, you know, different types of health considerations or dietary considerations. And that's to be expected. No one's going to be able to go vegan overnight and be expected to prepare meals perfectly.
Yeah.
Like, that's an unreasonable expectation. Some people are going to have a lot of luck.
But also, vegan is a colonialist lifestyle. Vegan is, like, unnatural.
I know, but, like, that's one of those things that has a fairly... well, no, they're vegans in Asian culture. Like, they're vegan Buddhists. They don't eat meat.
I mean, but it's like
not
unnatural.
Really, it's not called vegan, though. They're just... That's
what I'm saying. They're like, the way that what we call vegan, they just end up eating naturally.
Yeah.
But it's not unhealthily imbalanced.
It's not a religion either. Like, yeah. But it's no, but that was just an example, because that's a fairly established vegetarian food culinary culture now. But
and it's colonialist is what I'm getting at, in the sense of it's not something that you really find in, like, indigenous cultures, which is, like, when you see, like, vegans talking about, like, lifestyles, it's often used to dismiss natural lifestyles and the way indigenous people have been living for thousands of years. Because in the same way that, like, guess what? If you eat, like, grazing animals and don't farm them, then you can't overeat them, because you're only eating what is accessible for grazing, and you can't, like, you know, if you kill off your whole flock or the whole,
it throws, like, your field into imbalance.
Right. So you can't kill up. So it's like that natural balance doesn't exist, because we have farming and concentrated, like, meat distribution. So then people don't like, the meat distribution has nothing to do with grazing or keeping the like, growth in check. And that's kind of where, you know, grazing cattle keep growth in check, and then you keep the cattle population in check by culling the cattle ever so often. You get milk from the cattle when they...
Well, I think dairy cows and beef cows are separate.
Of course, but I'm saying in the sense of, like, the natural cycles, you're not supposed to be drinking fucking cow milk all year either.
We're not really supposed to be drinking cow milk at all.
Right.
But that's a different issue.
I mean, but in the sense of it's meant to be like a fatty seasonal reward, because it doesn't happen all the time. So when we ingest it, we're not meant to be drinking milk every fucking day. Like, that's not how we did it naturally, in the sense of, like, yeah, if we drank milk, it was during, like, birthing season for the animals, and it was probably part of some, like, it wasn't just ingested as milk. It was probably processed some way. So then it was like a specialty, and they're not just keeping jugs of cow milk or yak milk or buffalo milk around. It's like, oh, you might have like buffalo whatever at the harvest season, and it might not even taste good, but it's like to fatten up to keep put on nutrients or something, in the sense of like, yeah, no, but like drinking milk every day is not natural. Like nobody would have drank milk every day.
Well,
until like farming
milk's really kind of weird stuff. It contains growth hormones and all sorts of other weird shit. It contains pus before they clean it out. It's got to be pasteurized. Like it's not even white. It's like a bunch of different colors.
Humans are not meant to eat anything from other animals' bodies unless it's processed, whether it's their milk or their muscles or their marrow,
their eggs.
We're not meant to eat raw anything from other animals. Like we're just not. That's not what our stomach is meant to do. Because then you see other animals that are meant to do that, and their stomachs like have shit that could like fuck us up if we got bit by what's in their mouth. Yeah. Like the Komodo dragon.
Or even just the monitor lizard.
Right, or the monitor.
Yeah, their saliva contains all sorts of nasty shit. Digestive enzymes.
Mm-hmm. Paralytics. Same with tigers.
The paralytic enzymes in the monitor lizard.
It's not as acidic in tigers, but they definitely have enzymes in their mouth that are going to start breaking like protein meat or like muscle down in a way that we don't, so that they don't, they still get parasites even. So it's like, it's not even like that shit is 100% effective against them getting parasites. Like animals in the wild still end up getting parasites from eating fucking unprocessed meat.
They get parasites from eating animals that also have parasites.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that's also, there's a lot about the human and specifically American diet that are just way out of line with what you think the human body like would do. Like, I don't know, man. I can't, the way people eat like 5 times a day, I can't understand that shit anymore.
Oh, wait, what is it? Breakfast, second breakfast, lunch, dinner, or supper, then dinner, or something like that.
Yeah. And then snacks throughout the day too. There's just so much eating and so little activity. That shit is beyond me. And that's where I'm like, this is not about shaming. I just don't understand it. Like, I can't imagine spending that much time on food.
With the amount of activity that I actually have, I find myself eating twice a day, and I'm not complaining. I'm not sure who decided that 3 meals a day was like the way to do it, but I mean, maybe it's about forcing people to take a break.
Well, if you're getting up before the sun rises and working on a farm,
well, that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes total sense. But that's not what everybody's doing. And the notion of like 2,000 calories a day as just like the standard for anybody, as if like that shouldn't correlate with some activity. Like 2,000 calories is a lot. That's a whole lot.
I mean, maybe if I was like bodybuilding.
Right. Yeah. I'm not a small person, I'm not a large person. But if I eat 2,000 calories a day, or if I eat 2,000 calories, I'm going to have to put down a whole lot. And obviously, fast food makes that easier to get to. But even when you're eating fast food, like, if you eat 1,000 calories, you're gonna be fucking stuffed. Trying to get past that, it's like you have to try. You have to push yourself past that every time. And I'm just wondering if Americans had all of that dedication that they use to push themselves past 1,000 calories per meal and put that towards anything else that's productive, what it would be fucking amazing. Because that's where I'm like, it's not easy to eat past 1,000 calories in a sitting. And then that's where if people are eating, 600 calories, 700 calories per meal, then it wouldn't be that difficult to not go past 2,000. But they're like 1,200, 1,500, 1,600 calories in one sitting. And I'm looking at it like, how are you not doubled over in pain? Like, have people just numbed themselves to what the feeling of overeating is like?
I mean, a Big Mac with a medium fry and a medium drink is 1,000 calories.
Right.
So, I mean, that's like half of a caloric intake. And that's a lot. I feel so... Last time I ate an entire Big Mac and all the fries and drank the entire soda all in one sitting, because usually I won't finish the fries. Like, I just feel stuffed afterwards. The only time I do it is when I'm driving and I want to eat something and then I'm going to sit there for a while, which is probably a mistake.
Yeah, and that's where I'm like, I'm just looking at it, and
I don't think I've ever had a Big Mac that looked like any of the pictures of the Big Macs that I just pulled up.
the lie of food photography, right?
Man, I've never had a Big Mac that looked like any of these. Actually, no, that's not true. Here's one that looks pretty much like the ones I get at the McDonald's. And it's flat, and it doesn't look very promising.
Looks like somebody sat on it.
Well, it doesn't look... there's only like 3 pieces of lettuce, and the cheese is orangish. And
do you order anything special on your Big Mac?
No, I just get it the way they come.
So here's...
No. I usually try to order no cheese, and they end up fucking it up every time. Because they're like, what? Cheese?
So here's the secret. Yeah, you gotta like order at least one thing that's not with, or it's difficult with cheese because sometimes they'll act like they don't hear it. I just stopped going to McDonald's, but in general with fast food, you need to order at least one thing off from what they serve it, or else they'll just serve you whatever's sitting there.
No, that's my standard practice when I go to like McDonald's. I typically order like a double cheeseburger with no cheese because it forces them to make me a double hamburger.
Right.
And that's what I usually do, but occasionally I get the Big Mac because I'm hungrier. I want more sandwich, and a double hamburger is not enough. Because they put it on the mini bun, which is basically an edible napkin. It's kind of offensive, actually. The cheap bun. They've got such incredible like zero overhead on the fucking cheap buns. They should just put a real bun on all their sandwiches.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like
they get away with the strangest things. Give people real bread. Bread is not expensive.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of where they get away with it because people keep going. I stopped going. I haven't been to McDonald's in over a year now. They just can't get shit right. They can't fucking get shit right.
So the last week I've been helping Snark build a regulation playing surface Warhammer table. It can also facilitate Dungeons and Dragons. And this thing is like 6 foot 11 inches by 4 foot 11 inches in width, and it's 3 foot tall. It's huge. And one of these days we had to go back into town to get some supplies, and on the way back in I was hungry, and my blood sugar just dropped. We stopped at McDonald's, and I got a chicken sandwich and a double hamburger, and I drink a lot of soda. I drink a lot of juice. I don't actively just select water typically. But, you know, I don't, my urine comes out clear most of the time, almost all the time. But after eating that burger and that chicken sandwich and my urine came out kind of like light orange colored and smelled like chicken sandwich and like burger seasoning. And so it was just,
God.
it was like the first time I'd had like McDonald's hamburger in forever. I've had Wendy's hamburgers, you know, periodically through pandemic, through lockdown and stuff like that. But like I hadn't gone to McDonald's. It was the first time in forever. I'm not going back again, like anytime soon. It was really weird. And then after that,
that's super weird.
Yeah. Then after I drank some water, I drank some juice, like chilled out. And
like asparagus, I get. Okay. Yeah. You eat some asparagus. Your piss smells like asparagus. That's normal.
But it's not supposed to smell
sandwich?
like it's not supposed to smell like McDonald's chicken sandwich and burger afterwards. It was so weird. So yeah, I'm not going back to McDonald's anytime soon. That's
super crazy.
That was too much. I don't need to be reminded of it like that.
Well, that's like, you know, when you go into Subway and you leave and your skin smells like fucking bread and you don't want to have to wash and take a shower just because you ordered a sandwich somewhere. It's on your clothes. But you're not pissing out Subway smell. Pissing out McDonald's smell, that's fucked up.
Yeah, it really was. It was like it was burger seasoning and chicken sandwich seasoning. Whatever they used to season their chicken and their beef patties.
Whoa.
Yeah, I'm not going back. I've never had an experience like that before.
Well, I know that they use what's it called? Beef bouillon in their fries because one day there was somebody in there who's vegetarian and asking if their fries are vegetarian and they're like, nope, they have beef in them. And I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. Didn't expect that, but
yeah, they use
I guess
a rendered form of beef fat. They use beef tallow to deep fry their fries.
Yeah. Completely unnecessary, but
I mean, if that's what makes it, wonder what they did to change it for the Indian market.
Oh yeah. Well,
fries in India, McDonald's fries in India, I bet they taste completely different.
Probably better.
I wonder what they taste like. I wonder what they use. I wonder if they use like peanut oil or something.
Huh.
You know, that's interesting. Like McDonald's fries are only good when they're fresh. And really, like, if you eat them in McDonald's, you've got like a minute to get them. Mm-hmm. But when you get like takeout or drive through, it's like a 30-second countdown before they start to deteriorate. The flavor starts to deteriorate. So you really got to start eating them right away.
I think that's what, you know, anything that's above shoestring, I think works like that because they don't hold the oil well. So like, I don't know if you've had Joella's hot chicken. Their Parmesan garlic fries heat up really well, but also Steak and Shake fries heat up really well. But that's where I think.
Yeah, I haven't been to a Steak and Shake in years because every time I've gone to a Steak and Shake, leading up to the last time I went, they screwed it up every time. Mm-hmm. They just couldn't. It's like they can take an order, but they can't read, or they just don't know how to take an order, and they just say, okay, got it. But like, maybe it's limited to just the 3 or 4 that I've gone to, but it was just so disappointing. I just haven't been back.
No, I mean, like, I think in Bloomington, there's a lot of people who don't give a shit about their, like, what they're doing. So the Steak and Shakes and just any fast food here is going to represent that, I think, more than the national average.
Yeah.
Just because there's a lot of turnover. Obviously in the college students, but I mean in that, like, yeah, nobody, like, The only time you care about making stuff is if you see the same people every day, or you generally take pride in your shit. And like they
I don't
don't
think
pay people
yeah, I don't think a
enough
place
to
like
take
that would do
pride.
that. I don't think that
No.
they care enough because they have such a large pool of people who need a job.
Yep.
That said, I've known several people who were servers at Steak and Shakes, and they always seem to make a pretty decent amount in tips. So maybe that depends on the kind of server they are.
Well, I think it's probably weekend too.
Yeah.
Like steak and shakes were always popping on the weekends, so it's like, yeah, if you get lucky and get those weekend shifts.
So you mentioned Joella's, and I've been there twice, and the first time it was on like Labor Day or Memorial Day weekend. It was like the grand opening weekend, and I had a fish sandwich, a fried cod. It was delicious. It was fantastic. But then we went back a couple weeks later, and they served me like undercooked, like not cooked portions that were definitely not ready to be consumed. And then when I complained about it, their manager was like, "This is cooked." And I'm like, "No, bro, this is not cooked. Don't fucking argue with me when I tell you to recook it or reheat it. This is a restaurant, right?" And so I haven't been back there either. So it's unfortunate because the first time it was good and it smelled good and tasted good. I just haven't been back. And then pandemic happens and I haven't gone anywhere.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that
It's like
things have
right
changed.
there for me, and that's kind of where
Yeah. Well, you live right next to what I consider like the chicken triangle.
chicken corner, chicken triangle. It's totally chicken triangle.
Yeah, you got. Unfortunately, it includes Chick-fil-A, but you've got Chick-fil-A, KFC, and Joella's. You've got.
Well, in KFC, like the whole thing with them is, I was going there until they started pulling that we can't find anybody to hire bullshit, and then like I got into it wasn't really an argument, but the lady at the drive-thru was basically like, we can't pay people more, and I'm like, I don't want to eat somewhere where they're like rationalizing paying the lowest possible. That don't sound like something I want to keep supporting. So even though KFC's Nashville hot sauce slaps, I am never going back there again. At least not that one. Just because that shit is sketch, man. Because then it's like the only place in the area where I've seen that. Like I've seen it on the news and on the internet. But that KFC is the only place in town that I've actually encountered somebody complaining about, we can't hire anybody right now because of unemployment paying too much to people. They're just lazy. Like that shit is real, but only in certain places. But like I said, I am not supporting that KFC anymore because apparently they don't pay their workers enough.
Well, maybe they're just. I'm not going to try and defend KFC. That place has oodles and oodles of money.
Well, and there's about to. I mean, I don't know if the chicken shortage is still on for the summer, but it was once again one of these things where Americans can't help themselves and they were eating too much fucking chicken, and then there was a chicken shortage announced, and they started eating more chicken and putting chicken in the freezer. So, that's where like, guess what? If I have to pay $10 for a chicken sandwich, I will. I'm just not going to eat them every day. And it's like, people just can't fucking.
It looks like the chicken, lumber, microchip, gas, steel, metals, chlorine, ketchup shortages are all still happening. They're still in full effect. Let's see. Yeah, apparently during the pandemic, it was selling twice as well in stores than it had previously, like the previous year. There's a chlorine shortage. Oh yeah, people are using their pools. Now's the time to sell your used computer that you're not using. Don't go anywhere because gas is expensive.
Is that what article? Where is that coming from?
Oh no, this is just me looking at a bunch of. I searched for is the chicken shortage still happening? And I'm just seeing a bunch of like other things that are in limited supply, and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, you know, if you've got a spare computer that you're not using, you know, you can sell it. I'm not thinking of ones that are capable of mining.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, because that chip shortage is not going away anytime soon.
Oh yeah, no.
Computers about to get super expensive in the sense of like they never should have been that cheap in the first place.
Yeah.
But the way we've just like exploited the shit out of that market and had, you know, these like little Chromebooks and little $200
just wasting all the material.
Yeah, that shit is over.
Yep. So I've actually got it's a 2013 Dell laptop. Yeah, it's that old. It still works, and I'm waiting until the value of laptops increases, and then I'm going to sell it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, but by the end of this summer, that laptop is probably not gonna go cheap, really. You know.
That's what I mean. I'll be able to maximize. I'm kind of thinking in terms of like people will still need laptops.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's, you know, once people realize that like they can't just go find shit at Best Buy anymore, or like go to Target and be like, oh, or Walmart, yeah, this little $200 stupid fucking laptop. You can't do that shit anymore. Then yeah, that 2013 Dell laptop price is gonna fucking shoot up, man. It's crazy where people just treat that shit like trash. And yeah, it's back to drug wars where it's like, yeah, you just sit on the hardware long enough, it's gonna
people will need it.
Somebody's gonna need it. Yeah.
Well, it's like at the beginning of the pandemic when everyone decided to start their podcast because they had time to do it finally. And, you know, we'd been sitting there watching the prices of, I had been watching the prices of microphones for months, and I noticed that they were doubling and tripling, and then there were no microphones. And then, like, about 4 months into pandemic, all of a sudden supplies had been restored. But, you know, these components are always in limited quantities, so it just affects production later at some point. Spike in demand does not mean that the demand is going to stay consistent afterwards either, because the conditions will change like they have.
Yeah, for sure. And then in the sense of like there was a seeming peak of remote work where now people are trying to return to in person. So on the one hand, you don't, it's like the need for microphones isn't going to stay on that same trajectory as last year. And it may like sharply decline to the point of then like maybe next spring, you might see a ton of microphones show up on the secondhand market for super cheap, and then pick up a bunch of cheap microphones.
Yeah.
And then something else happens, and then you turn around and flip those you know, these are the types, like there was a brief period where webcams were fucking
obscenely expensive.
Yeah, that shit was more valuable than gold for a second. Like, I mean, not literally, but in the sense of the hot commodity that you just can't find.
Well, it took me like 3 months to get mine from China, and because I didn't want to pay the 400% markup on Amazon to get it in 2 months from China.
That's crazy. Well, and that's just like when those, it must have been at the beginning of last year, whenever I was like telling people like buy GPUs, I think it was even the end of the year before last, because there was like something told me, I'm like, GPUs are about to fucking disappear for a while. And it was like, oh, that's what it was, right before the 30 series came out.
And then there were all of the delays with the release of the 30 series.
Yeah, because everybody's like, I'm gonna wait to get the 30 series. I'm like, I don't know if that's a good idea. I don't know if that's smart.
Well, didn't you buy like a complete computer just for the video card because it was worth it?
I did.
Yeah, I mean,
it was like cheaper to acquire that video card by buying a whole computer than trying to buy it off the secondhand market because the markups were so high. It was like on the secondhand market, the card alone was $1,200, and then buying the computer, it was like $1,500. So, you know, it doesn't make any fucking sense, right? It doesn't make any fucking sense. So that's when I was like, yeah, guess what? I'm gonna buy this card or buy this computer for this card and turn around and like mine on it, and then I already made back what I spent on that computer pretty much. Not just from that, but from the multiple machines in that, like that one machine may have made probably 400 alone.
Yeah.
Since February. But yeah, it's like it's already recovered 30% of what I spent on it, like roughly a little less than that. But
well, once you hit like there's a point where if you sell the motherboard and processor and just keep the video card, you hit ROI like immediately.
Right. Yeah.
And then
like I could turn around and sell the.
And then you can get a better, well, not better. You could easily acquire a less featured motherboard just to facilitate mining on for like a very low price point, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's some chipsets that seem better suited to mining than others, just because they really only focus on a few things instead of trying to be the all knowing, all supplying motherboard that can do everything. I've always thought that was like the one of the most interesting things about motherboard design is that some of them had like all sorts of extra functionality, like more ports than would ever be useful, or like external SATA ports, and also FireWire, and also every USB. Like they have everything. They have coaxial digital output and optical digital output, built-in video cards, like the whole shebang. And then at that point, it's like, well, what do you even need to add to this thing other than like a cooling fan? I mean, at that point, that's basically like a DIY console entertainment center. But then on the other hand, there's also computers that have no video. Some don't even have audio. You have to like add your own audio card to them. And I've always liked those because they seem like the kind of platform where you get to make more decisions. But computers now are so capable. Like even the most basic computer is so capable compared to what they were just 10 years ago that, I mean, is any of that stuff even necessary for like the mainstream consumer? I'm not talking about gamers. I'm not talking about content creators who have requirements that go beyond mainstream computing, obviously.
Yeah, because then it's like, what does the mainstream consumer do besides watch videos and text? That's the question.
Facebook.
Bueller.
It's like Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and Amazon and Netflix.
All watching videos and texting.
Yeah.
That's all that is. All of it.
I can't imagine a scenario where that computer user actually needs an i7 or a Ryzen 5000 or even an i3 or a Ryzen 3000. I'm going to completely skip the 500 or the i5 because it's also extremely capable. But like, I'm not even convinced that the mainstream computer user needed anything more than a Pentium, like ever.
Nope. None of it. They don't need anything besides the Pentium 3.
Like all of the insane, like when I look at the list of instruction sets that like modern i7s do, it's like, yeah, like this is great because I'm doing streaming stuff, but almost all of this stuff isn't used for anything outside of content creation now. Like this is workstation stuff. It's not even, you have to use specific types of hardware or software to take use of these instruction sets. I guess maybe using the photo editor built into Photos takes advantage of a few of them.
Exceptional Radio.
Exceptional Randos show is produced live in Sunroom Studios Base Capsule and in partnership with KLST 103.5, RadioCallisti.org. Remember to catch our Exceptional Randos live stream on YouTube every Sunday between 2 and 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you have a story, idea, or question that you would like to share, we want to hear from you. Thanks for listening.
Well, that was random. Exceptional